Hello, and welcome to episode 6 of What If Civilization Started Over. Let's get right into it. I've been saying for a while that Carthage and Sicily hate each other, and I feel like they should probably eventually go to war over it, so let's do that now. Um, Carthage will make a treaty with Egypt, saying that Carthage gets to have the rest of North Africa that Egypt doesn't control, which basically is an obvious thing to try and get this colony. And the idea that Carthage has is that Egypt will aid them in case of a war, so that's what they're hoping on. Because right now Sicily is just way stronger. Carthage will begin invading into the Moroccan colony of Sicily, and they'll actually be able to take it because Sicily's all the way over here. But Sicily will then send troops, and they'll be able to land on this peninsula right here, and they're getting very close to Carthage itself. They then go down and take this city, and they start marching through the countryside of Carthage towards this city. And at this point, Carthage is like, hey, Egypt, you promised me that I could have this land. Why aren't you helping? And Egypt's like, well, no, actually, we just promised you we wouldn't stop you from taking the land. We never said that we would help you against Sicily. So Carthage is struggling. Meanwhile, Spanish generals have crossed the Strait of Gibraltar and are starting to take Morocco back. And Carthage is like, uh-oh. As they are losing the only gains they had in this war. But out of nowhere, Egypt pulls one over on Carthage and starts their own invasion into this land before Sicily can get it. And Sicily and Egypt sign a treaty, so Sicily doesn't have to defend this border, and they can pull their whole army here. As Carthage is starting to get hit from the south, which is not a place they expected to get hit from. However, one Carthaginian general is really good and suggests, hey, why don't we hit them where they don't realize how much it would hurt? And so they first send some boats up, and they quickly capture Sardinia and Corsica. And they issue a blockade of this area so that Sicily can't get its troops to Spain, at least not without going through Gaul. They didn't realize that this land was here, so they actually end up discovering this land in order to facilitate the movement of their troops. This is like the first land that was discovered not by a group of explorers, nor by a group of civilians, but by the military. And so they kind of naturally end up kind of having some people settle in this land to try and facilitate the movement of their troops to Spain. But while they were working on that, Carthage was working on getting some of their territory back and was pushing them back over here, as well as using the blockade to be able to push them almost out of Morocco, only keeping this one city held hostage. And so Sicily isn't necessarily winning anymore. Finally, they are eventually able to retake Sardinia, and they send their entire army there, and Carthage decides this endeavor wasn't worth it, but they already had these people here doing these supply routes. And also, the Gibraltar Strait had already been crossed in the other direction, as the good Carthaginian general is now over here wreaking havoc against Spain, and Sicily not doing anything to help Spain is going to make Spain not really want to be part of Sicily anymore. Seeing how badly Sicily's losing, Egypt decides to stab them in the back and starts basically taking all this land, while Carthage takes this land. And then Carthage goes to Egypt and says, hey, your word doesn't mean anything if you don't give me this land back. And Egypt's like, why wouldn't I? And so Carthage then goes to Sicily and is like, hey, I think we're ready to negotiate peace. And Egypt isn't actually invading into Carthage because they don't realize that it would be easy to do so. But Sicily's looking at how many troops that just died here, and they're like, sure, we can negotiate peace. And eventually they agree. Carthage gets the North African land, but they'll withdraw from here, from Spain. But another part of the deal was that Sicily will help Carthage start pushing out Egypt. And this is this big surprise to Egypt, and it's also an extreme embarrassment because they were kind of trying to show they control what happens in the Mediterranean, and they just proved they don't. So they're getting very weakened, and a lot of the people who live in like this area of Egypt actually decide that they want to break away, and so they just form their own country. And these Egyptian forces are still Egyptian, and they're left stranded, and they're forced to withdraw. And Egypt doesn't really want to keep fighting this war, so they give them independence. This will be Libya. Even though their capital is actually going to be this city, which is in modern-day Egypt, I'm still going to call them Libya because most of their country is in Libya. So despite their only mild loss in the war against Carthage, Sicily has economically been destroyed, and they're immediately going to feel it, as Spain, who also is in charge of administering the southern French regions, Spain will also break away, and they will put their capital. Actually, they wanted to put their capital. They had an argument about whether to put their capital here, here, or here, so they actually chose here as a compromise city instead. And if that wasn't bad enough, Sicily has to sell the Balearic Islands as well as to Carthage in order to stay afloat, and their government isn't doing very well. But fortunately, the daughter of the King of Sicily is married to the King of Italy, and so the King of Sicily decides it's time to resign and abdicate, and he gives the throne to his daughter, which will merge the thrones of these two countries, and kind of dissolve Sicily as a state, but I like the color of Sicily better. Now Italy is united. So a lot of humiliations just occurred, but Turkey is loving this. They want all of Greece, as well as all of the land that's been discovered at least. So to help that, they actually discover more, so they can actually settle all of the land that had been discovered. And then they go and they colonize this land. And the newly united Italy is having some political struggles because some of the Sicilian elites don't really want to be Italian, so this colony is going to be seized. Turkey thinks everything's going fine and dandy for them, but little do they know that the country who gave them independence doesn't really like them anymore and wants to fight back. As they start an invasion into Turkey and basically say, hey, you can keep the land you got on your own, but we're going to take the land that we once owned. And they are way, way stronger than Turkey. They're by far the strongest country in the world. North Egypt used to be close, but not anymore. So, yeah, Turkey is getting crushed. But speaking of North Egypt, they are desperate to restore their prestige after the L they just took in that war against Carthage and Sicily. And so they declare war on Mesopotamia in the name of protecting Turkey. And they actually do decently well before Mesopotamia shows how much stronger they are than most of the rest of the world by being able to fight back against Egypt, who was once considered by far the most powerful country in the world, and now they're losing. Egypt's breakaway. Libya will also fight against Egypt. They wanted this city as well as this city, but they didn't get them because they didn't want to rebel. And now it looks like Egypt's doing badly. To make it even worse, Greece will then secede from Turkey, and Turkey won't be able to stop them. And their capital is actually going to be in the ethnically Italian city, which is interesting. That could become a problem for Greece later on. But Turkey doesn't really have the power to stop Greece, because Mesopotamia is just absolutely clobbering them, not even close. And eventually they get to a point where they have all the land they actually wanted once they take Cyprus. And the government of Turkey, which has fled to this city, but the government of Turkey, which has fled to this city, refuses to sign peace, mostly because North Egypt has signed peace with Libya and is now able to fight back, and is actually doing quite well against Mesopotamia, almost going back into Mesopotamian territory. And Turkey will send a message out to, of all countries, Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia will be convinced to launch their own invasion of Mesopotamia. But like Egypt and Turkey before them, Mesopotamia will fight back and do surprisingly well to the point that they've taken all of this territory that Saudi Arabia is forced to cede because they don't want to keep fighting. And that includes their original capital, which is kind of embarrassing. And at this point, Turkey sees no other option than to also cede all of their occupied land as well as some even more land just for the punishment or as punishment for the crime of not having surrendered earlier, as they are forced to move their capital all the way west to the city where it was previously as an emergency measure, but now it's just for real. And eventually North Egypt and Mesopotamia realized that they weren't really fighting over anything anymore and restored their old border. In the southern tip of India, the entire southern tip of India will be discovered, as well as Sri Lanka. And the two countries that are West and East India will race to discover or to colonize it. And they will pretty much just end up splitting it, as the populations of these countries are large enough that cities generally just start popping up a lot. Speaking of cities popping up, Saudi Arabia gets another city. Mesopotamia gets a few more cities. Greece gets, let's say, 3 more cities. A few cities will pop up in southern France. One here, one here. Yeah, I think that's good. Okay, these two countries are for now peaceful with each other, but we'll see how long that lasts. Okay, now let's go to the religion layer, because we have something to talk about. Persia took a lot of religiously green people from the purple country, and the monarch wants to expel them, but the monarch's top advisor is like, don't expel them, that's going to start a war, and we don't need a war right now. We just took this territory, let's allow them to integrate. And what they eventually do is they come to a compromise where Persia will allow people of the green religion to stay in Persia. They have to belong to a special sect of the green religion that does not answer to the guy who did live in this city and now lives in this city, I believe. Let me see. And no longer answer to Pakistan. Religion turns out to be useful to the state, who quickly makes it a state religion. And also, these two pockets of this religion, having been separate from these guys for so long, these will each evolve into their own sects of the religion. And this religion is quickly spreading throughout Mesopotamia, becoming the majority religion in the capital. But Mesopotamia is a secular country, and they're okay with the green religion existing within them as long as they are still loyal to the king, so for now that's not a problem. And let's just look at the religion layer as a whole, because I've made some changes to it. So this is what the religion layer looks like now. But we're starting to get to the point where states realize having a state religion is kind of useful, and I don't want to keep having new religions pop up one by one as well. So I'm just going to fill up the religion map, and we'll see what it looks like. And this is the new world religions layer. As you can see, most countries are homogenous, with Greece, Turkey, and Mesopotamia being the only exceptions that have mixed religions, as well as countries that just conquered land from other countries. Mesopotamia is still majority yellow religion. Egypt is entirely yellow religion. Turkey is mostly yellow religion. Greece is ethnically insanely mixed, or religiously, I should say, although religion and ethnicity are kind of similar in the series. And unless a specific event happens, from now on, religions are not going to change in regions, which could be interesting. Countries are going to become more and more religiously mixed over time, which could be interesting. So yeah, let's go back and do some more secular stuff, though. So this eastern country, which I think I was calling North India, so we're going to call them North India, they are a monarchy, and they're led by the son of the guy, or they were led, now they're led by the great-grandson, but of the guy who lost all this land. This used to all be part of Pakistan. Now it's just this. And his son was forced to move to this country. He's extremely bitter, but he knows he can't get it back. So instead, he and his ancestors have been doing a slowly expand into Asia and hopefully find something good there. Basically, there's a term like looking for your Nile that these guys have, where they're trying to find basically their version of the Nile River. And they actually are exploring a lot. They get to here, and then they decide to, let's go down this coast instead. They go Vietnam. They don't really find anything, but they do explore all this land, so I'm going to mark it in as explored. They're not really colonizing any of this land, but they are exploring it, and eventually they get to the Yangtze, I think is the southern one, River Valley in China, and they're like, finally. So they set up a colony that is still loyal to North India, and they kind of go in. They have been using compasses, so they actually know how to get back. Or maybe not compasses, they might have been invented, but they know exactly which direction to go to get back. So they go straight back to India. They go a little bit off from where they thought. They were going this way. They were actually going this way, but quite close given how far they were. So they have pretty good navigation skills. And now a lot of land has been discovered. And they're like, hey, we founded this colony all the way over here. And this is the first ever, like, actually far colony. But there were enough people in this group. Like, it was like a group of 50,000 people. So they found 2 cities. These 2 cities have to be like 2 or 3 generations later because the threshold for cities is 50,000 people. So they likely founded 1 city and the rest of the land had literally no one. But eventually they get to another city. And I don't like how little of this land is explored, so over the next few generations, they're also going to explore a little bit more land. But for now, they're not going to settle much of it. Instead, just kind of trying to settle both the Indian side of this divide and the Chinese side want to meet each other so that they can get trade more easily. So the Chinese side is focusing their efforts on colonizing westward, while the Indian side wants to colonize eastward. And I'd say right around now is when the year 0, quote unquote, of this timeline takes place. So in case you're wondering where we are in history, that's, I think, around where I would say we are. In terms of cities, 1 more city is going to pop up there, and a few cities are going to pop up along this trading line as kind of trade cities, as well as one all the way over there. And so North India is a really weird country, but this is how they look. Also, a really weird thing's going to happen on the religion layer. The Orange religion was a minority religion within North India and the rest of India that already existed, and it had kind of been founded all the way back in Oman before they went to Persia, then India. So it's a minority religion all throughout here. In fact, there's probably some clumps. There would probably be some clumps where it is. There would probably be some clumps of land where it actually is a majority religion. So I'm going to just put it along their entire path. So yeah, you can see there's pockets of it all across the lands where they used to be. In fact, let's say, but a majority of them were in West India, which say has another one pocket like right here, as well as in North India because they were secular, and because of the demographics of the group that fled to China, it's finally like an actual region where it's fully majority of that religion. Another interesting thing that happens is that when Persia makes the state religion, they completely abolish it from there. So now there's just 2 pockets in Oman, or in Saudi Arabia that, if we're being honest, probably develop into a slightly different religion, as well as 2 pockets in West India that are close enough to these guys to stay the same religion. Oh, yeah, when Mesopotamia conquered Turkey, a ridiculous amount of refugees fled westward into Turkey, making it overpopulated, which is going to be bad for it. Also, Spain is going to try and do stuff with their French land to keep it, because otherwise they know they'll probably lose it. Italy will finally explore most of the Alps, and Greece will connect them up so that they've finally explored the entire Mediterranean, because that's taken way too long. Meanwhile, Mesopotamia will actually put some more effort into exploring the Caucasus. And you can see the world is slowly starting to be explored, with Spain actually colonizing a lot of this French land that they have, and Italy colonizing a little bit deeper so that their borders can look better, because it was garbage before. And for now, Italy and Spain are fine with each other. Like, they don't love each other, but they can tolerate each other. They're not, like, enemies. Italy and Carthage are enemies, and I think a second Punic War will probably be fought soon. But yeah, I think that's where I'm going to end this video for today. So, oh no, wait, one more thing. Sorry. Carthage, following not having really anywhere else to go, will start actually exploring into the Sahara, which was something that no one else had done before. And let's just say they do it quite well and thoroughly. They really want to found a city there, but they're only actually able to found a single city in the Sahara because that's how bad it is. And we're just going to pretend there's an oasis here. I'm the god of this universe, I can say that. There is one, so that's why the city is founded. But otherwise, Carthage kind of struggles. But yeah, with that, I think I will actually end the episode here. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.